Hey everyone, it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make gluten-free rice sourdough bread. I'm going to show you how simple it is to actually make this and how well it holds together. So at the very end of this video, we are going to slice the bread, we are going to eat it fresh with some fresh butter on it, and then we are going to toast the bread just to show you how well this bread holds together. So with this rice sourdough bread, it actually only has 2 flours in it, which is quite different from many of the recipes that you are finding on the internet or you're searching on YouTube. Mine does not include any starches at all in here. So if you want a bread that doesn't have any potato starch, any gums, it's just using the rice flour, and I'm using flaxseed meal, or you can call it flaxseed flour. What that flaxseed does with the rice is actually, I use it as the glue. So think about it as you got the main rice flour, but because rice doesn't have any gluten, when it's just rice, it just kind of crumbles. But when you add that little bit of flax flour, flax when wet starts to glue things together. So you can actually kind of stretch it, it really holds. You can actually make a recipe or pancakes or flatbread just from water and flax. This is why I love using flax so much in gluten-free baking. So when I'm making my coconut flour bread, I'm adding a little bit of flax. Same idea as this rice. So what I like to do is have the main ingredients in the house. So here is rice, brown rice, right here. I love using the whole grains. One, because it's lower in glycemic value, and whole grains hold. So if I just have rice in the house, I can make rice flour anytime I want without it losing nutritional value. That's the key. The second that you make this into flour, it starts losing nutrition. If I make it fresh flour out of the rice, I'm increasing my nutritional value. Plus this stores really good just like this. You can store it for years just as rice, and make flour as you go. The other ingredient that I love is flax. I mean, you can buy big bags of flax seed fairly cheap still, which is nice. And I just have this old peanut butter container that just lives up here in my kitchen. My big container that holds a bushel or 50 pounds is downstairs. So I just have flax here, whole flax, and I'm going to turn whole flax into flax flour or flax meal. They're both the same thing, just people call it a little bit different. But again, the second you turn flax seed into flour or meal, it starts losing nutritional value very quickly. But you can store it for years as the seed. And so what better way to make a nutritional bread is to just mill or blend the raw ingredients into flour the moment you need to use it. It is actually really simple. You don't need a grain mill to do this, okay? This is not wheat, this isn't barley. When you do what I'm going to do with them in the blender, it doesn't get as smooth. So grains don't get as smooth in the blender like a grain mill does. Now, if you have a grain mill, you can definitely do the rice in the grain mill. Do not do the flax. The flax is higher in oils and can gum up your grain mill. That's why I'm going to use the blender for it. So if you don't have a grain mill, let's head over to a blender. You can use virtually any kind of blender to do this. Rice isn't a hard kernel, so it's not that hard for the blender to blend into a beautiful flour. And if you want to save money, which we all want to do, buy the raw rice just like this will save you a ton of money. If you go to the health food store and buy rice flour, you're gonna gulp at the price of whole grain rice flour. It is insane when we can do this within 50 seconds in the blender. So all around, it is the best to just get the whole grain. So enough chatting about that, but I thought it would be really important to really get you to understand how to make this bread as nutritional as possible, how to save money, and how to do this yourself, because there's a lot of us that want increased nutrition but have a budget, right? So this is a good way to do it. So let's make some rice flour and some flax flour. So I'm going to use my blend tech with the twister jar on it. If you don't have a blend tech, you can definitely use any kind of blender. I'm going to start with blending just a half a cup at first in the twister jar. If you're using a full-size blender jar, you can go up to about a cup to cup and a half. I want to have 4 cups of rice made into flour. This will make about 7 cups of flour altogether. You're gonna need about 4.5 cups of flour to make the recipe that I'm gonna show you. So if you're just using flour and you don't need to go through this step, then just make sure you have 4.5 cups. This will give you a little bit of extra flour to use in the future. Store it in the freezer or in the fridge, any extra flour. So let's do this. Okay, so let me just show you there. So take a look. It's really nice and fine. That's what you're looking at. So when you put your fingers through it, it might be very, very slightly gritty, but it is fairly smooth, and you can see that. You don't want to have gritty flour, like really, really gritty flour. Okay, so that looks really good. So I'm gonna just put this into my container. So let's just keep going. Okay, so I got my container right full of rice flour. Now we need to take the flax and turn this into flour as well. For this recipe, we need 1 cup of flax flour, which all you need to do is a half a cup of seed. So a half a cup of seed will make 1 cup of flour. And you notice that I'm going to put it right into the twister jar that I did the rice flour. I'm not washing it because, well, I'm going to mill this flour and I'm going to take everything that's in here and put it right into my bowl immediately. So, and I'm going to be using the rice flour anyway in this recipe, so it makes no sense to add that extra step. So if you're wondering, there you go. So let's blend this up on high. Now make sure you don't blend this too long because it will turn oily. You don't want to make flax butter, right? So what you want is nice and smooth flax meal, just like that. Okay, so you can take your hand in, rub it, and it's nice and silky smooth. This took 14 seconds to do, so it doesn't take that long. Okay, so I'm going to just take this flaxseed meal right here and I'm just going to dump it right into my bowl. You'll notice that at the bottom it's kind of stiff, so I'm just going to run my hand through here and get it out. What's nice about a blend tech is that the blade is actually not sharp, so this is not going to cut me. Please, if you do this with other blenders, watch out for a sharp blade. I would hate for you to cut yourself on it. So there's my 1 cup of flax. Absolutely beautiful. I love playing with flour. Oh man, little kid in me. Okay, so what else do we need here? We need sourdough. Okay, so let's take a look. In my container here, I have rice sourdough, and you can see the bubbles on top there. I hope you can anyway. And it is active. So you want to feed your sourdough starter at least 24 hours before you make this. You want an active active starter for this. So what I want to use is a 1/4 cup of active starter. Now what I like to do with my starters is I like to stir them because sometimes they settle a bit and you want everything in there evenly distributed. So I'm just going to give it a little stir. This is your consistency of your rice starter. Now, if you don't have a rice starter, I have videos on how to get your rice starter. I also sell dehydrated rice starter, so I can ship that to you. You can order that right off the website, so you can have your very own rice starter. So take a look. I'll link videos. I'll put videos in the description box on how to, maintain your rice starter, how to troubleshoot your rice starter, all that with sourdough. I have videos on that already, so I'm not going to go in depth about that. Stir it up. I'm going to set my spoon aside here, and I'm going to take a 1/4 cup out of here, just like that, and I'm going to put it in there. Okay, now the key is, even in my other videos, in my whole wheat sourdough cookbook that is coming out here very soon, whatever you take out, you put back in. So I took out a 1/4 cup of the starter. So I'm going to put a 1/4 cup of fresh rice flour back in here, plus a 1/4 cup of unchlorinated water right back in here, just like that. And then you mix it back in, and it is fed. You can put it right back in the fridge, and that step is done. That way you never ever forget to feed your culture. I put my lid back on. I have it labeled rice because I have multiple cultures in the fridge, and you just put on your lid where it's loose. You see that? Where I can't take it off, but the gases can come out, and I'm going to put that into the fridge. So let's get back to the recipe here now. So we got 1 cup of ground flax in here, and we got a 1/4 cup of starter, looking really good. Let's just add some salt here. So in my salt container, I have some beautiful salt that still has the minerals in it. I use Redmond's real salt, so I'm going to take a good pinch. This would equate to about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, just like that. Now, you're probably going to wonder, if you're used to using conventional yeast from the store, this would be a big no-no to add in the salt. With natural starter, like sourdough starter, this does not wreck your starter at all. So don't fret. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, now we need some liquid in here. So I am going to put 2 cups of water. It can be cold, it can be warm water. That doesn't matter. Just do not make it hot. Otherwise, you will kill that culture. Okay, let's get that water in. Okay, so I'm going to just give it a little bit of a mix here. Okay. So the next step that you want to do is add in the rice flour. So how simple is this so far, you guys? I mean, really, this is incredibly simple. Okay, so we're going to do a 1 cup at first. We're going to put the first cup in. I'm going to mix it up. Then we're going to add in another cup. Just like that. Put that in there. So we're up to 2 cups. And really get the sides of your bowl. Really get the sides. Okay, so now you start seeing it come together. Now we're going to add another cup. Okay, so you see how this is coming together? It's getting stiffer, and this is what we want. So I'm going to use my wooden spoon as long as I can, just because it's kind of sticky right now. And you can see it coming together, but you can see it, how sticky it is. Okay, so we're at 3 full cups of flour. Now what you want to do is grab a half a cup of flour, and you want to add a little bit at a time. So I'm going to use a half of this. I'm going to clean up my wooden spoon. And what I want to do is start kneading. Now, depends on what kind of rice you're using. This is where you want to just go a little by little. Okay, so I'm going to knead in about 1/4 cup I put on here. But I can feel it that it's still sticky. So I'm going to put the rest of that half a cup in here. And I'm going to start kneading it. You can start seeing come together. And the reason why I can knead this so nicely is because of that flax flour. That is critical in here. It also gives it really good nutrition. Now you can see as I'm going, it's still sticky. Still sticky. So I'm going to add another 1/4 cup. That's coming together nicely. Okay, I take my other hand because this hand's kind of, gooey and stuff, and I'm just gonna feel it with my clean hand. Yeah, it's still slightly sticky, not too bad. I still got some flour in the bowl here to go. You can see that right here. So let's just pick that up with the dough. Keep working that in, and still, you can see that when I put my palm down and I lift up, you can see that stick. Just listen. Whoops, I'll hold the bowl down here. You hear that? It's still sticking to my palm. A little bit too sticky. So I'm gonna add in, I'm gonna dust another 1/4 in here. I need about another 1/4. So we're almost to 4 cups of flour. And like I said, the last cup depends on the type of rice you're using. So I like to just hold back that last cup and just put it in slowly as I knead it. And I'm not kneading here to activate gluten like whole wheat. I'm just kneading to work that dough where it's nice and soft and where I know the right consistency. And I just love kneading anyway. It's relaxing. Okay, just a little bit more. Just a little, just a light dash, maybe like a tablespoon more over the top. Being a good cook is not just knowing the measurements, but is the feel of the dough. To know when it's right. And that's what I really, hope to teach people too, is look at your dough. Look at it, okay? It's holding together. I can knead it without it really sticking to me. Now it's a little stickier because rice dough plainly is. I'm just gonna add a little bit more. But it's holding together real nice, and this is what you want. So I'm gonna take my fairly clean other hand, and now I'm going to knead it. And do you realize how nice it is? Listen. Very little stickiness. Now just slightly, but it doesn't stick like it did before. That's what you want, okay? So I'm looking at this, I'm going, yeah, this is about the consistency I want. This is looking really good for really nice bread. What I'm going to do is just set this quickly aside. I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to get our Dutch oven or our casserole dish ready, which I should have did before I did this, but I got too busy teaching you guys. If you want to do this in proper order, we should get this ready first, but let's talk about that in a moment. Let's wash our hands and then get that dish ready for the loaf to rise in. Okay, so we got that beautiful loaf nice and kneaded. Now, I like to bake gluten-free loaves in a Dutch oven or a casserole dish. Now, look around. Most of you have a Dutch oven. It is literally a dish that you can put in the oven with a lid. So this could be a pot with a glass lid that you can bake in the oven. Make sure there's no plastic on it. You don't want plastic, you guys. You can do casserole. I don't have like a really fancy Dutch oven. I just use casserole dishes that I have. So I'm using this one. This is a 1.5 quart. I'm pretty sure. Let's just double check the bottom of this. Yes, we are 1.5 quart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to oil the inside of this. So I'm just going to take some olive oil. You can take, you know, coconut oil. I'm just going to put a couple little bit of squirts in there. And then what I'm going to do is just oil this. I'm going to just make sure the sides are well oiled. The bottom is. Just really oil this up. Otherwise, this is going to stick like crazy. Alternatively, you could easily put parchment paper in here without a problem as well. So really, it's up to you. Do what you want to do to prevent this from not sticking. I like to do it this way. Be free to do whatever you want. So I have this nicely oiled. So now I'm going to just use rice flour to flour the inside. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So since we're nicely oiled here, the sides are and everything else, then what I want to do is take some of the rice flour here. I'm just going to grab a scoop. I'm just going to put that scoop right in there, and I'm just going to move it around. And what this does, and I can actually move it around, go right over my container and spill the extra in there, is just going to give that layer where nothing's going to stick. Now, if you look how well that's stuck, I'm just going to hit my dish, and that's going to get the extra flour off, because I just want what I need. So I'm going to hit it again, make sure, and there you go. That's an oil and floured casserole dish or my Dutch oven. Just as simple as that. And here is my beautiful loaf that we kneaded so nicely. And what I'm going to do here is I am just going to now pick it up. Okay. Take a look at this. I'm just going to shape it a little bit in my hands, just like so. And then I am just going to put it in the pan and leave it. Don't touch it. Mine went a little bit off to the side here. It's okay. It'll kind of rise and fill up anyway, so no big deal. Just leave it now the way it is and let it sit there for 24 hours. So 24 hours, I'm going to let it sit there. That gives it enough time for the sourdough culture or starter to really digest that rice flour in here. It's going to rise and it's just going to develop that delicious sourdough taste. And the one thing that's really nice about rice sourdough bread is it gives this really nice roasted rice flavor. Like, it's a really unique, delicious flavor to it. So letting this sit and rise and really develop its flavors is really, really critical. It's making the rice flour easily digestible for your body, and it is the same thing as wheat. Why sourdough is so healthy is because it takes the wheat, it starts to break those phytic acids down where your body can actually pull all the minerals and nutrients from it. Because if you don't, what happens is your body actually can't digest those whole grains, and your body starts pulling out minerals. It does the opposite. So what you want is to nourish our bodies. I love sourdough so much because the aroma is wonderful to smell. The taste, the texture, the flavors is just excites my palate and excites so many other palates. But at the same time, we're eating bread that is high in nutrition and good for our bodies. So let this sit in a warm place, room temperature, that's warm enough, on your counter. Like, I could set it aside, make sure you place that lid on, okay? set it aside, put it on your counter, make sure it's out of direct sunlight. You want to just kind of tuck it away on your counter. I'm going to, because I don't got a very big kitchen, so I'm going to put this in my living room, actually just on a working table, just to sit there for 24 hours, and it's going to slowly stretch and rise. If you just think about how simple this is, you mill your flour, or you put it in the blend tech, blend your flour, you add the ingredients together, which is really simple ingredients, mix it, knead it, put it in your Dutch oven or casserole dish, let it sit for 24 hours. So after this, you go do your thing for 24 hours. Let it do its thing, and then we bake it. So tomorrow at about this time, now we are about 10 o'clock in the morning here. So tomorrow around 10 o'clock, I'm going to put it in the oven and bake it, and we are going to enjoy it sometime later, for lunch. Let it cool off for a couple hours, and then you'll have a delicious tasting bread. So let's take this little baby and tuck it away so it can do its thing. So this is 24 hours later. Look how much it has risen. So at this point, preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and make sure that you put this in the oven with the lid on. We're going to bake it for the first 20 minutes with the lid on. 20 minutes is up, so we're going to take the bread out of the oven. As quick as you can, take the lid off and put the bread back in for an additional 40 minutes. Okay, the bread is done. Beautiful. So what I'd like to do at this point is I'd like to just take a knife and just loosen up the edges. And then I'm just gonna flip it over. It should pop right out. And there we have it. Beautiful loaf of bread. So now I'm just gonna let it basically stay on this wired rack for 2 hours, let it cool. We're gonna slice it up, and then we're going to also toast it. I'll show you how well this bread holds together. Now that the bread has fully cooled, let's cut it into slices. What I like about this sourdough bread is that it has a really nice crust on it, but it's soft in the inside. Okay, so let's take a closer look. Look at that. Look how well it holds together. This is actually a fairly thin slice, and look at this, it doesn't even fall apart. It's a heavier bread. This isn't soft and pillowy like a white wheat flour, but this is a heavier bread and will actually, what my mom used to say, stick to our ribs. So it holds together nicely. You can even toast this. So let's toast this piece. So as that piece is toasting, let's butter just a fresh piece of bread. What I like about this bread is that even though I added the flaxseed in, remember we added 1 cup of flax flour into this bread, is that it doesn't taste like flax. It just kind of falls to the background. It's not really heavy rice forward in flavor as well. It's just a really nice blend of a hint of rice, but very much sourdough. And so that's why I love this bread. And I also, once again, really love this crust. It has such a wonderful crust that it's not too hard, but it holds the piece together really, really well. And then it's nice and soft in that middle. And the rice has this really beautiful roasted flavor. Like, all in all, if you gotta go gluten-free, this is definitely a win, because you can cut the bread really easily. It holds together. It tastes absolutely delicious. It's high in nutritional value. It's a little bit heavier, so you don't need to feel like you have to eat 4 or 5 slices to get that full feeling. You could easily, make grilled cheese sandwiches with this. It's just, all in all, a very versatile bread that is great for you when you're gluten-free. Toast is ready. Okay, do you see that? Look how toasted it is on that edge there. Absolutely gorgeous. Take a closer look. Really nice. And again, it's not rock hard. A lot of times when you're making a heavier bread, it gets so hard, but this still has its flexibility, but it's nicely toasted. So let's put some butter on here, and it's gonna nicely melt on top. Okay, look at that, nicely melted butter. There is nothing like nice warm toast. It's crunchy just the way I like it. And when it's toasted, it definitely brings out a little bit of the more, it definitely brings out a little more of the rice flavor to it. It's a little stronger, but tastes so good. You have got to try this. So if you make this recipe, put down in the comments how you like it. I mean, feel free to add a little bit of herbs in here if you want, play around with it, but now you got the base recipe. And I would love to hear what you think of it, or if you tried it. The other thing is, go to everything-homemade.com. There you'll find my cookbooks. I have everything stevia on there. That's also a whole wheat and a gluten-free cookbook where you're using stevia as your sweetener. I teach you how to garden it. I show you how to harvest it, how to make your own stevia extract, and make whole wheat or gluten-free baking of all kinds. So check that out. My next cookbook is coming out really soon, you guys. So it is a whole wheat sourdough cookbook. And subscribe to that website, or click on the notification bell here, and you will be notified when that cookbook is ready for pre-order. For you gluten-free group that loves sourdough, there is going to be a sourdough cookbook coming out in the future. So if you stay tuned to the channel, you'll get all the updates on that as well. Seeds are on the website as well. If you are gardening in Canada, the seeds are only available though in Canada, as the cookbooks I can ship worldwide. Definitely place your seed order in, because that time is now for gardeners. Otherwise, enjoy your rice sourdough bread, and thanks so much for watching.